No problem.
This meeting is being recorded.
Nice American voice there, lovely. Okay, we've also got some volunteers who've been out to the Gambia, I know, and Nigel and Susan. Nigel, tell us about your experience briefly, if you would, please, first.
Well, I'm sort of more of a practical hands-on guy, so I was going out there to help with a farm project. Basically, they had to relocate the farm, and we were helping set up the farm in a new location. It's Africa. Things never work as you think they will work. You know, things always get delayed. But it was an amazing experience. It's a beautiful part of the country. And I would suggest not flying out there by Air Morocco, because I ended up being 2 days late. But other than that, yeah. So that's it. I'm just, I'm a practical guy. So yeah, I was just helping out on the farm, basically. Okay.
Nigel, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
When you were out there, how many other volunteers were there? Were there quite a number of them? Or?
There was quite a few volunteers from different organisations. There was nobody else from People and Places. So there was a guy out there, was an architect doing stuff out there. So yeah, there was quite a few. There was quite a few different organisations working out there who are around. So, but I was the only People and Places person there.
Okay, thanks.
And Nigel, I see that you've also volunteered in South Africa and Peru. Were they both with People and Places?
Yeah, first one was People and Places. I've got to check my dates now because it's been so blooming long. South Africa is 2007, the first time I volunteered with People and Places, and absolutely fell in love with volunteering.
Yeah.
We set up a cycle project in South Africa, and it's an amazing country. Yeah, absolutely loved it. Peru was doing a conservation project, spent a month in the Amazon, basically, which was tough. Yeah, that was. Go on.
Sorry, I'm just. Do you get the feeling that you're making a real difference? Because I'm considering volunteering, but lots of the organisations I've looked at, I think I get the feeling that sometimes the volunteers are a bit of a pain, and they're just doing it to get the funding, and that's what attracted me to People and Places. Actually, it seemed different, but just interesting to get a feel if that's the case when you're actually on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, People and Places, you are actually doing something.
You're helping.
Yeah, and when I first went to South Africa, like a lot of volunteers, I thought I was going to change the world, and you're not. You're going to help, and we set up a cycle project, but you're going to hand it over to somebody else who's going to carry it on. And yeah, you do make a difference. And it's not. I mean, I hear of some projects where they'll spend a day building a wall, and then it'll get knocked down that night, and somebody else will build it properly again. No, People and Places are not like that. No, it is.
Okay. Thank you.
That sounds like a good school detention, that does.
I can think of a few school detentions working in one.
Very joking. Great. Susan, thanks for that. Brilliant, Nigel. Sounds some fantastic projects. Susan, tell us about your experience, please.
Well, I'm a retired nursery head.
Okay.
And when I retired, I live in Scotland, and I'm allergic to Scotland in the winter, so I decided I would travel in the winter. And so I did countries I was happy going on. I go on my own. So and then I volunteered initially through Saga, and my volunteering in South Africa was great because it was with a chap called Paul, which is quite sad because he's not there anymore. But I really enjoyed it, and I stayed in the Saga Hotel, and there were other people there with me, so I had company. I then went to Sri Lanka with Saga, and that was fine. It wasn't so the link person with the school wasn't as, he was a Sri Lankan, and that wasn't as, it was different, but I had a lovely time as well, and I just love meeting normal people. I don't really want to sit on a beach and sunbathe. I want to travel, and my children traveled when they were young, and I didn't do it because we were poor, weren't we? And then I went to St. Lucia with with Saga, and that was dreadful. That was just like the lady said. I mean, the head teacher wanted the money. The teachers didn't want you. The curriculum was left a lot to be desired, and Mrs. Saga came out, and I told them it was awful, and so they've stopped doing it now. And so when I was in South Africa, there was somebody from People and Places working at the same time. And so that's why I got in touch with People and Places, and I went to India with People and Places, which was great. There was somebody there with me, another Yvonne, who volunteered a lot. So, sorry. So that worked really well. And then I went to Sri Lanka. I went to the Gambia, and I was ill when I got there, so that didn't work very well. Yvonne was there for the first fortnight, and then I was on my own. Yeah. And that was not, and the accommodation was not a hotel, so I was. Adana was fantastic. He found me a hotel, but again, I was on my own. There weren't many British people out there at the time, and I didn't cope with. I didn't like that. Okay. I'm a people person. I need people to. The staff that I felt, one member of staff was great, and I've had contact with her since, and she was lovely. There was another. The staff weren't well trained. One of the older members of staff who was in charge of another class, she resented it. Right. And what I found really difficult there, somebody else from People and Places had been and done a lot of good work on outdoor play with young children, but I mean they're poor. So Lee Song is working with the government, but they don't have the money to put it into practice, as far as I can see. Okay. And they're, sorry.
No, I'm trying to stop you. I'm just conscious of time there, Susan. Okay, lovely. Before we move on to South Africa, have I missed anybody who's got any connections or thinking of Gambia at all? Great. Okay. I mean, with the volunteering, as we go through the projects, a lot of this will overlap anyway. So I'm sure, I think, hopefully a lot of questions may be asked and experiences may be looked into, and there will certainly be overlap, I know. Okay, if we move on to South Africa. So I know, Chris, we talked last time, but we have got some different people on the social, and I know you've done an e-volunteer placement there, and I know that Wendy, Jane and Nigel have been out to South Africa in person as well. So Chris, briefly give us an idea of your e-volunteer placement, please. Mute, can't hear.
There we go. I did my placement this last term. Basically, it was a sort of part-time job. I was teaching a teacher training course to the facilitators. They have this facilitator academy, and they wanted basically a course taught so that they were, their skills were upgraded, and they were going to, employ some of them. Actually, with good work foundation. So, and they hoped that others might go into education and so forth. So, as I say, it took a sort of day's, preparation or whatever. And then there was a class of, I don't know, sort of 10 to 15 odd, absolutely wonderful young people, terribly keen. Articulate, full of ideas, very open. It was just a really good experience, and it was well managed, and it needed to be, because as you might have discovered, it's a big organization, and they have these campuses, and essentially I was sort of beamed into every few weeks we had a sort of plenum where everybody gathered in one of the campuses. Otherwise, they all had their laptops, and where they were, working in their own sort of campuses, they would, find themselves a corner of a room or whatever, and just log on. Yeah, I mean, as I say, I think we had problems with electricity. There were blackouts, and there were problems of connectivity and so forth. So you do have to be flexible. For a few weeks, I had to get up extremely early and do the session because of that. But as I say, very rewarding. We sort of rattle through all the normal sort of, topics. And it was just very interesting, somebody was talking earlier about how much, you can, learn about a place. Obviously there were sort of problems in the sense that I was dealing with, basically, as I say, it was just like a part-time teaching job. It was a full sort of classroom, if you like. But I made quite certain that, I was in listening mode, and we were talking about their experiences and this, that, and the other. And it was great, just discovering how they were seeing things and what the challenges of their job were. And I just made certain that I covered things that they wanted covered. Classroom management and sort of sexism and so forth, learning difficulties, all these things. So being flexible, in other words, I've found, very useful. It was important to do that. But yeah, no, I mean, it was, as I say, it suited me very well. It was a nice thing to do. But as I say, I found it quite hard work. You know what I mean? I mean, I had to, as I say, I had to, with you've got a class and you're teaching a class online. Essentially, I had to prepare a proper PowerPoint and the resources and this, that, and the other. I was working with with an excellent lady there called Maureen Grosh, who basically we team taught together. So that was really good support. But no, it's a very good setup. I'd recommend it to anybody.
Great, thanks, Chris. Yeah, if I just pick up on a couple of points there, which overlaps with certainly my own experiences. Flexibility is the most important thing, obviously. Expecting things possibly not always to go according to plan. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I think with an e-volunteer placement is you're able to dovetail it into your daily routine, really. So it's as much as least, well, you're expected obviously to do an hour at least a week, but there's obviously more on top of that if you wish, with preparation and so on. So there's lots of things you can do. So it's a very flexible program, and that's certainly what I found, and that's what came through very strongly with your talk, Chris. Yeah. Okay, if we can just hear a little bit briefly from those who have actually been out there. Maybe you can just have a very brief sort of idea of what you did. Wendy, first of all, your experience. Hello, Wendy. Okay, Wendy seems to have gone. What about you, Jane?
Hi. Well, I was actually out in South Africa 10 years ago at the end, autumn 2011 with my partner, who he was a teacher, and my background was more in IT.
Yeah.
But what you said about sort of having to be flexible, because we didn't really know what we were going to be doing. Obviously he was a teacher. So he actually ended up supporting one of the teachers. Oh, sorry, I should explain. We were working in a large primary school in a very poor township on the Eastern Cape. It was organised by Paul that Susan mentioned, and he was great. We felt very well supported. He came every Friday. We were there for 4 weeks. He came every Friday, and we had a sort of progress meeting and catch up and sort of planning for the next week. And during the week we lived with one of the teachers, and then at the weekends Paul took us back to Port Elizabeth, where we stayed in a guest house. so we were able to sort of, you know, enjoy sort of being in a pleasant resort really at the weekend. So it all worked very well for us. I mean, as I say, we felt very well supported by people and places. My partner ended up supporting one of the teachers who'd just found out that she had to teach technology, and she absolutely knew nothing, and she didn't know where to start. And he had been a technology head of department, so he was able to be very supportive to her. And there's some great fun activity with the kids, which they really enjoyed. Yeah. And I ended up two things really: trying to sort out the school's database, which was in a terrible mess, and also did a little bit of training with the teachers, because they actually knew very little about how they could use Microsoft Office to, you know, help. They did everything, you know, pencil and paper. And so I just did a basic training on Excel and Word.
Okay, great.
But as I say, that was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
One thing we really noticed was that the curriculum was so inappropriate for those children. So much of it was, I think the curriculum is the same, or it was then, throughout the whole of South Africa. And so much of it was just completely outside their experience. Mm-hmm. So they did have some computer learning. They did have a small laboratory with some very old donated virus-ridden computers. Yeah. And they did have some software on there, and they were all very keen to use it. But as I say, so much of it was just outside of their experience that it really, I don't know how much they really got out of it.
Okay.
So yeah, that was my experience in South Africa.
Lovely. Well,
I've also done some e-volunteering last year, which was producing a PowerPoint. I don't know whether you want to know anything about that.
Yeah, yes, briefly, please. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I was asked if I could produce a PowerPoint on how to produce a PowerPoint. Mm-hmm. That was asked for by Dara, actually, at TREAC. And so I did that, and had a very rewarding session later on with some of the teachers showing me the PowerPoints they produced after using my PowerPoint. So that was very rewarding.
Thank you. Great.
And it kept me busy during lockdown spring last year as well.
Yeah, yeah. Great. Thanks, Jane, for that. And Janet, you also did some, you prepared some training materials as well, didn't you?
Yes, I was asked by Dara and having discussions with Sally and Diane to write a presentation on how to do spreadsheets. So really back to basics, even more simple than what, you know, spreadsheets for dummies, really. I had a long chat with Jane, who was very supportive. Thank you, Jane. It's lovely to say hello. And that helped me a lot, because you just realise how simple you have to make it, I think. I think that was when people who've got not a lot of computer knowledge and English is not their first language. And it worked very well. And it took a long time. It was quite a challenge, but I did it for around finance, about how they manage their own finances, and also how they would manage the school finances, because obviously Dara as head teacher has to do that. But we also then used it looking at spreadsheets for databases, for pupil records and that kind of thing, because it's often easier to manage than databases. And when I met with the school just before Christmas with all the teachers online, a lot of them were going to develop that side of it.
Right.
The database side of it. So that was quite interesting. It was worthwhile.
Great, lovely. Thank you so much, Janet, and thank you for everyone who's contributed to the South African project. If we can move on to Morocco, I'm conscious, I think there's some people with us and some people who aren't who have been involved in projects, but we'll see who we can sort of talk to. E-volunteer placements have been done by Wendy Simpson, Jen Booty. I know, Tina, you've done some work as well, haven't you, Tina? And currently, Aileen Flinter and Kai Knoll, who don't seem to be with us, or Aileen is, yes, and future Eva was, and she is there. Great, fantastic. Okay, so let's kick off with Wendy Simpson first. Is Wendy able to speak?
Hello there.
Hello, Wendy.
I am. Hiya, Paul.
Yeah, great.
Fantastic. Well, I did both types of volunteering. Sorry, that's my dog in the background.
Yes.
So I went out in sort of February in 2020 and taught English at ASNI 3 to 15 to 18-year-olds. I had a lot of brilliant help from Tina, who's here as well, and liaising with her and Linda, who both worked with the older students. It was a fantastic experience. Wonderful house mothers helping these girls who are really successful, and the houses have this fantastic holistic approach, really, you know, and when you go, you get to meet you know, the people who do the housekeeping, who do the cooking, and everybody chips in to, you know, keep these girls well and learning and motivated. So, you know, if you do get the chance to go in person, it's fantastic. And then I pioneered with Tina and Linda some e-volunteering as well. You know, so I worked with the house mothers. So initially it was a huge conversation between all of us once a week. And then we did some work with individual house mothers to help improve their English skills. And really, as you were saying earlier, it's working flexibly, really, to find out, you know, what people really want to know, what they need to know, what will help. And I found that actually, you know, providing, you were able to then do lesson plans with them, give some material before you started, and then, you know, do some feedback as well once you'd finished. And it was a brilliant experience. You know, it deepened my understanding of Morocco. Slightly different, but still absolutely brilliant, you know. And I know then other people went on to work with the girls.
Okay, great.
Totally recommend it.
We've got a question. We've got a question here. Sorry, is it Lucy? Is it?
Lizzie. Hi.
Lizzie.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Hi. Can I just ask, with your experience in Morocco, I had a friend that volunteered in the Atlas Mountains. It's in the Atlas Mountains, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
And she came across. She felt quite unsafe with the environment there. Did you feel safe in terms of
yes,
you know, the
absolutely.
local? Yeah. Okay.
Because the house mothers, you work a lot with them, so you know you'll stay in the hotel, then you walk a very safe route to school. All the local children at the local schools get to know you as well and wave at you in the morning. So and I fell flat on my face in ASNI, and all the children there kind of rushed up and helped me up and phoned the house mothers, and they got me to a doctor. So and people know who you are. It's absolutely brilliant, actually. So you don't get the hassle you might expect.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great, lovely. Thank you, Wendy. And Tina, you're like Wendy. You've had a physical placement out in Morocco as well as some e-volunteer work. So tell us about your experiences, please.
Yes, Wendy's covered brilliantly the e-volunteering that we did, so I won't add anything to that. That was really good. The on-the-ground experience, thinking of Wendy on the ground, it was absolutely fantastic. It didn't feel unsafe in any way at all. I'd attempted to learn some Darija, which is the Moroccan version of Arabic, and people were very entertained by that. So I can thoroughly recommend working with Education for All. It was a brilliant experience.
Lovely. Great. Thanks, Tina. Fantastic. And finally, Jane, over to you.
Hey, so, excuse me, I found out about people and places through Education for All, because I'd been visiting, I used to visit Morocco a lot, and I'd actually been to visit one of the houses on one of the trips that I'd been on, and I was quite keen on volunteering myself in person. But in fact, that never happened. But I kept on getting the newsletters, and then then in one of the newsletters, it popped up about e-volunteering for people and places in one of the houses. So last year I did 12 weeks working with girls who are 15 to 18-year-olds, taking their baccalaureate, preparing for the baccalaureate. And we were doing speaking and listening skills, basically. And I was just really, really impressed with people and places, with the preparation before I went. I was told a lot of things. I was put in touch with people if I'd wanted to sort of ask questions. I met Karima, had meetings. I met the house mother. I did meet Khadija later on in my placement, and initially it was Aisha. The girls were just delightful. I really, really enjoyed it. And so I'm going to do it again in next month. I'm going back for another 12 weeks. Well, I'm not going, but I'm Jitsi. That's what we use. We didn't use Zoom. We used something called Jitsi, which, at the beginning I was thinking, oh gosh, is this going to work? The technology, and it did. There was a couple of glitches, and the way it worked was that we had. I worked with a lot of girls over the course of the weeks. I didn't see the same girls each week. I sort of saw different girls. Right. But we had some there was consistency. Yeah. But I'd see 6 girls for an hour at a time, really. And I only did once a week because that's all I wanted to commit to, but that was absolutely fine. There was people and places arranged meetings as we went on, and at the end as well. At the last couple of weeks, I think I did twice a week, because some of the girls, then the older girls, were preparing for an entrance exam to a university in Casablanca, where they would be taught through the media. So we were preparing them for that interview. Yeah. They knew that only 2 of them were going to get places. But we were preparing, I think I was preparing 6 girls for that. And yeah, I just loved it so much, and really, really enjoyed the experience of seeing the girls every week. And they are so motivated. That's what I was so impressed with their motivation. I'd sort of give them something to do over the course of the week, and they always did it. They'd come back and there they were, they'd done it. And yeah, I just thoroughly recommend it. And I think the support from people and places is excellent as well.
That's girls' view. I wouldn't say the same as boys, would you?
Could be right, yeah.
Great, fantastic, Jay. Yep, Eva. I was going to come on to you, but go on.
Thank you. I got a question for any of you who have been in ASNI in Morocco. So just like, do you have any piece of advice or something I should know before I go? Whatever you want to tell me, I'm happy to hear from you.
When are you going? What time of year?
Hopefully I'll be going in February, like end of February.
It gets cold. It gets really cold at night. Much colder than you would think for Africa, because it's high. It's much. Which country are you in, Eva?
I'm in Spain.
Okay, I will go. It gets cold. Really cold. Water bottle, gloves, hat.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Great, lovely.
Great.
Aileen, you're currently doing a placement, aren't you?
I am. I'm working with Bardi as the house mother.
Okay.
And she's brilliant. She's so good at passing on messages back to me if there's something happening, if there's a change of time or anything. Or I send work to the girls through her every week. Some homework and things, and she passes all that on. Yes, the Jitsi, well, perhaps just the technology generally. Sometimes you get cutouts and fuzzy pictures, which is a bit disconcerting. And one of the things I've learned as a retired teacher is how physical teaching is. And I find it very constraining, just being me on a screen and not being able to move about or demonstrate anything, or you sort of like in the classroom always moving, and so much is the gestures. And at the other end, the girls are lovely. They are children who are younger ones who haven't actually started formal English lessons yet, but they have picked up one way or the other, possibly through the social media and films and things. They picked up quite a bit, and they seem, you know, I say, oh, we're going to do numbers, and they start going 1, 2, 3. I'm like, oh, that's what I was going to do, you know.
Yeah.
So, but they're very quiet and very, you know, sort of. It's a cultural thing. I taught in the East End of London, where people are not quiet and not backward in talking and answering, and the girls are very quiet. So it's sometimes I feel like it's a monologue. And, you know, please answer me. You say it, you know, I'm asking you a question, please say it. But overall, I'm enjoying it. And I've discovered, as a tip for anybody else in a situation of learning English, the British Council have amazing material, all free online, and pictures and worksheets and all sorts of stuff, which you can just download and either use it in the lesson, or just send off to the other end for them to use themselves. So obviously I'd recommend it. I did a month in South Africa back 2010 in a secondary school there. And with Paul, it was wonderful. Didn't change my life in that sense, but I just loved it. And this has been good, but I feel frustrated that I wish I was doing it better. Sure.
Yeah. Okay, sounds really interesting. I'm sure you're doing a fantastic job, Eileen. Thank you for that. Great. I'm conscious of time. We've got literally 10 minutes left. So last but not least, Cambodia. I will be very, very brief. For anybody who wasn't here at the beginning, I was intending on doing a placement in, Cambodia. And obviously COVID hit. So I was introduced to volunteer placement, which I did last year, January to March. And it sort of morphed, it evolved, as I said before. It was basically helping, mentoring essentially Dara and his deputy head. We were looking at all sorts of things, but with obviously in the 3-month period, we were looking in particular at school action plans and lots of things that came out of that. But what was so impressive with both of them is how enthusiastic they were. Teachers training in Cambodia is completely different to what we know in the UK. There's a greater limitation on it. So they just had an absolute thirst for knowledge. We've covered a lot of ground, but I do hope if COVID allows and other commitments allows to go out there in November for a physical placement as well, which would coincide with a sponsored bike ride. In November, they did a 538-kilometre sponsored bike ride around part of North Cambodia. I'm a very keen cyclist myself, so I dovetail that with going out there and cycling and raising funds, but as well as that, obviously following up what we did earlier this year. I really enjoyed my e-volunteer placement. It was a lot better than I thought it would be. In fact, I don't really know what to expect at the beginning. It was one of those great unknowns. But as I said, I can highly recommend it to anybody who's thinking of it. And I know that we've also got, enough from me, I've talked too much. I know that we've got Brynja and Kristen in a minute who are going to talk. They are hoping to go out to Cambodia, but we've also got Tina and Janet who have both been out there in person. So Tina, briefly tell us about your experience in Cambodia. Tree?
Again, a fantastic experience, very involved with the local community. I lived in Siem Reap. I stayed in, it wasn't the youth hostel, it was next door to the youth hostel, and they transported me to Triac every day on the back of a motorbike. it was my mode of transport. You didn't
cycle then?
No, I didn't cycle. There were too many potholes. I know you will cycle, but I will. I sat on the back of a motorbike and had a wonderful time. Yeah. The staff at Triac are absolutely dedicated. I did 3 different experiences there. So in the morning, I was in the nursery with she was a qualified teacher in Cambodia, but she was not confident about introducing English into children who were just being introduced to school, let alone English. Yeah. That was, it was like being in a play group with very simple English, and you spent most of your time on the floor, on your knees. The afternoon, I worked with, I think it was the Key Stage 2 students in much more a proper classroom situation. And in the evening, they run evening classes from 5 until 6 for the local population. So again, I worked in the evening classes. It was a long day, but I chose to do it. I could have chosen to just do 2 of those 3 shifts, but yeah, it was a very interesting experience.
Great.
Tina, can I?
Thanks.
Would I be able to just ask a quick question? What does the school offer over the sort of state-provided education? Is there?
They're only at school either in the morning or the afternoon at the state school. So they have the other half of the day when they would just be running around the village. And so the school is offering the experience of education totally in English. So it's supplementing what the school does. And then you've got the evening class for people who've left school in the evening. Yeah. It's very much a community venture.
Thank you.
Great, lovely. Thanks, Tina. Janet, can I ask you to give us literally a minute, please? I need to get on to Kristen and Brynja, who I know want to go out there. I'm not too sure if Emma's interested in Cambodia at all. I'm not too sure. But we'll come on to you in a minute. Janet, 1 minute, please.
Yeah, 1 minute. I actually didn't work at Triac. I worked at another community centre which we were involved with called Grace House. And we're not actually working with them any longer. But it had a similar background and it was a similar kind of place. And I worked mainly in the kindergarten, and I was actually helping the teacher look at other ways of learning. So instead of, they had loads of play, but I was in the preschool. So I was also trying to show them different ways of learning. So instead of learning everything by rote, I sort of took stuff out with me from Hobbycraft. So instead of the only thing they knew about a red triangle was it was on a piece of paper, they actually were able to hold one because I was able to take stuff with me. And I think that was the kind of developing different ways of learning was actually what I was doing. And I also sorted the library out for them. And I did visit Triac because I said it was a very similar place.
Was it? Right.
It was a very interesting and worthwhile experience.
Super, thanks, Janet. Kristen, you're hoping to get out there as soon as you can, aren't you?
Yes, we are. Brynja isn't here anymore because she had to work, but we're planning to travel as soon as we can. We don't know when that is yet, but we just got out of the military, so we want to go somewhere else now.
Yeah, okay, great, good. So you've listened obviously to those talk about e-volunteering, but you're very keen to get out there physically, and hopefully you'll be able to do that, sooner rather than later. Yeah. That's yeah. So the 2 of you are traveling together, are you?
Yes, we are.
Okay, lovely, fantastic. Emma, are you thinking of Cambodia or are you thinking of other placements?
Hi everyone. So I'm essentially I took a bit of a leap and doing a career break. So I'm actually in the British military and I'm taking a year out from that and just want to get some just kind of give back to the other things really. So I think for me, at the moment I'm doing kind of a digital innovation program where I work with startup businesses. So I think, and I'm also considering actually a bit of a career change potentially to teaching. So I think the South African project was quite interesting, hearing about that today. But yes, also Cambodia does interest me quite a lot. So yeah, I'm just kind of interested in hearing everyone's experiences and hearing from the people in the country as well. So yeah.
Great, lovely. Okay, we've got one minute to go. Has anybody got any last question at all? Any thoughts? Any comments? I get my wrist slapped if I don't get you back for 12:30. Hello, Susan. What you have got 1 minute. 1 minute, please. And you need to unmute.
What accommodation is there in Cambodia?
Tina.
There's the youth hostel, which is better than basic, but you have to pay for air conditioning on a meter. And next door to it is a very nice guest house called the Mother House, which is, it accommodates a lot of Chinese guests. So you feel like you've been in China as well. But that was very good. And it has a swimming pool. I can recommend it.
Right, good. I just think it will also be my holiday. So I don't really want to be...
Go for the Mother House. The Mother House was fine.
Right, thanks very much. Great. Thanks for that.
Paul, can I just break in and say a very big thank you from People and Places for this morning. And again, my apologies for failing to record the first part. I should be in deep trouble with Sally and Diane.
Rather you than me.
Yes,
okay.
Quite, Paul.
No problem. Okay, so should we all leave now, Howard, and get back? Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Lovely. Okay, lovely to speak to all you.
Yeah, I was going to say thank you, Paul, for coordinating it. I thought you did a really good job at keeping everybody on track.
Yes, well done, Paul. Well done.
No.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
No problem at all. Okay, lovely. See you in a minute. Bye.